Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is Winter Games for the NES. It was originally developed by Epyx for a variety of different systems in the 80s, and this version was published by Acclaim in 1987. I'm playing this game from a cartridge on a retro USB AVS. Winter Games and the various other similar games developed by Epyx that were like this, they were all generally pretty decent games. They were all pretty popular, and they made their way to a whole stack of different consoles and home computers. The NES version is actually pretty bad compared to the other versions of this game. The Epyx game series was known for offering basically a stack of minigames, and they all had varied gameplay. The thing with those games were that if there were a game or two in the list you didn't like, you had a whole bunch of others to choose from. Usually you could find one or two in the list you did like. Here, they've taken a game that was really popular, and they've gone in a really bad direction with it, and who knows why. The game starts with lighting the Olympic flame. Honestly, it is super tedious. It takes too long, and all I want to do is forward through it, and they don't let you skip it. It seems like they might have spent more time on worrying about the opening animation, as opposed to actually figuring out coherent gameplay. This version only gives us 4 different minigames, while the original game had 8. That's 50% of the game being offered here, and the 4 minigames that are here, they're all pretty rough. You can play hot dog aerials, which is skiing, speed skating, figure skating, and bobsled. The thing is, these games don't attempt to use the NES for the one advantage it really offers. The NES offered something that all the original PCs didn't have, and that's a second controller button. They barely use any of the buttons in any of these games, and they never utilize the B button. What a waste of an opportunity. The game only uses the controller pad and occasionally the A button, and not even for all games. Let's start with hot dog aerials. Here's how you play. You press the A button to start. You race down a hill and you're in the air almost immediately. Maybe it takes a second. Then you just press the gamepad in different directions and you're going to spin around, twist, and flip. After you do this for a second, press down on the controller and you'll land. That's kind of it. It's over really fast and there's nothing else to do. It's very boring. The next game on the list is speed skating, and it's pretty boring. You press A to start the game and then push left on the joypad. That moves your left leg. Then you push right, which moves your right leg. Now go back and forth to speed up. Just keep going back and forth, that's it. Back, forth, left and right. Then you do it a little more, do it a little longer, and eventually, hopefully, the game is over. It's not fun. Figure skating is really rough. You press right on the gamepad to start moving right. You hold the gamepad in a direction, and then you press the A button, and that's supposed to execute a move. I can turn around, I can jump in the air and spin, but I can't land. I am a terrible skater, and I crash each time. I'm sure there's a timing problem I haven't figured out yet. I guess you're supposed to press and release the A button a second time to land, but I've not been able to land any move yet. Not one. I mean, I guess it looks fine when you're jumping in the air and you're spinning, but I always crash on landing. I've played other games from this series, and I've managed to figure out timing. I have been unable to do it so far with this. The last event available is the bobsled event. And in the bobsled event, I can get about halfway down the course before I lose outright. You push down on the gamepad to slow down, and you hold left or right to angle the direction of your bobsled. It is not easy to understand, and it barely uses any real estate on the screen. It's a total waste of space. So we have 4 really poor minigames, and none of them have any sort of music or sounds that are decent. Not that music or sounds would have actually saved this game in any capacity. I think overall, one of the biggest problems the game has is that the controls are really difficult, and the descriptions given to you in the manual, they don't do a good job of accurately trying to explain exactly how you're supposed to do the moves. I think if they spent more time here, they might have been able to help some people play the game. I don't think it would make up for the overall problem of the game, but it would have made it a little easier to sit through, maybe. This was the NES, and it was supposed to be the most powerful system, or at least home console, that the game was programmed on up until that point. Yet they produced probably the worst version of the game. Very strange. I'd be curious to know if this was just a rushed port, or if there was some sort of a greater explanation as to why the game ended up like this for the NES. Even at the beginning of the game, when you're about to select the minigame you want to play, if you look at the list, The list looks incomplete. They only have 4 entries, but they're also sort of stacked to the top. I mean, if you were only going to offer 4 games, I figured you would have spaced them out on screen, so it doesn't look like you had a larger list and somebody just cut it in half. I wonder if maybe something like that happened. Maybe they pulled the games out at the last minute. Who knows? I have this game for a few other systems as well, and I'm going to have to give them a try. I have this on the Commodore 64, and also a cartridge for the Atari 2600. Now I'm curious to know how different the versions are going to be. The funny thing is, the California Games cartridge for the NES, which was from the same basic series, it was far better than this one. I don't know how they could have done a good job on that game, but do so poorly on this one. Well, that's all I have for winter games for the NES. Not a good game, but then again, it only cost me a few dollars to get it into the collection, so I guess this isn't a huge loss. Thanks for giving this one a look, and I'll catch you next time.